My name is Elena Brooks. I'm 27 years old. And 3 weeks ago, my parents refused to watch my twins while I went into surgery. Not for a vacation. Not for a date. Not even for work. Surgery. My doctor said if I waited any longer, things could turn dangerous fast. But when I called my mother crying from my car outside the hospital parking garage, she sighed and said, "Can't your husband handle it?" My husband died 18 months earlier. And somehow, that wasn't even the worst part. Because 2 hours later, I found out my parents were babysitting my younger sister's dog so she could fly to Miami with her boyfriend. But what they didn't know was that Grandpa Richard heard everything. And by the end of that week, my parents lost something they cared about a whole lot more than me. Before I tell you what happened, hit subscribe if you love emotional family revenge stories like this one. And tell me in the comments, what's one moment you realized someone would never show up for you no matter how much you needed them? Now let me take you back 6 years. Back before the twins. Before the surgery. Before Grandpa finally said what everyone in the family was too afraid to admit. I was 21 when I married Caleb Brooks. Caleb had this quiet way about him. Not shy. Steady. The kind of man who remembered to warm up my car in winter without being asked. The kind of man who squeezed my hand twice in crowded rooms because he knew anxiety made my chest tight. We lived in a tiny apartment above a hardware store in Millfield. The floors creaked. The radiator hissed all night. And every Friday we split one slice of cheesecake from the diner downstairs because money was tight. But I was happy. My parents never understood that part. "You could have done better," my mother once whispered after our wedding rehearsal. Not richer. Better. Like love was something you ranked financially. My younger sister Vanessa was different. Vanessa was my mother's favorite in the kind of way everyone notices but nobody says out loud. She got the newer car. The bigger birthday parties. The softer voice. When Vanessa failed college twice, my parents called her creative. When I got pregnant unexpectedly at 23, my father called me irresponsible. Twins changed everything. Mason and Lily arrived 6 weeks early during a thunderstorm in October. Tiny. Fragile. Fighting. They spent 12 days in the NICU while I sat beside plastic incubators pumping breast milk and pretending I wasn't terrified every second. Caleb never left my side. My parents visited once. My mother brought flowers with a price tag still attached. Vanessa never came at all. But Grandpa Richard did. Every day. He'd shuffle into the NICU with old coffee on his breath and crossword puzzles tucked under his arm. "You eating enough?" he'd ask every single time. Not "How are the babies?" "How are you?" That mattered more than he knew. When the twins were 6 months old, Caleb died driving home from work. Drunk driver. Wrong lane. Instant. The police officer who came to my apartment couldn't look me in the eye when he said it. I remember Lily crying in her swing while Mason slept against my chest and thinking, I don't even have time to fall apart. The funeral blurred together. Casseroles. Rain. People saying strong woman like it was a compliment instead of a sentence. My parents helped for exactly 4 days. Then life moved on for them. Not for me. For me, life became survival measured in hours. How many bottles left? How many diapers? How many minutes of sleep before another child woke crying? Sometimes I'd sit on the kitchen floor at 3 a.m. with both babies screaming and feel my brain separating from my body. But every Sunday, Grandpa Richard came over. Always Sunday. He'd fix something small just to avoid embarrassing me. A cabinet hinge. A leaking faucet. A broken porch light. Then he'd sit with the twins while I showered. Not cleaned. Not laundry. Not cooking. Just showered. Once I came out crying because the hot water felt so good I forgot what year it was. Grandpa pretended not to notice. That's the thing about real kindness. It protects your dignity too. My parents lived 15 minutes away. 15. But whenever I asked for help, there was always a reason. We're exhausted. We already had plans. You chose to have kids. Meanwhile, they babysat Vanessa's golden retriever 3 weekends a month. I wish I were joking. The surgery issue started last winter. At first, it was just pain. Sharp. Low in my stomach. Comes and goes. Then one morning at work, I nearly collapsed carrying inventory boxes. The doctor scheduled scans immediately. Severe ovarian cysts. One had partially twisted. We need surgery sooner rather than later, the specialist said gently. I stared at the ceiling tiles while she explained risks. Recovery time. Anesthesia. Possible complications. All I could think was, who watches the twins? They were 4 by then. Energetic. Loud. Always sticky somehow. I called my mom from the parking lot. Please, I said quietly. I just need 2 days. Silence. Then. Well, Vanessa already asked us to watch Cooper. Cooper. The dog. I blinked. Actually blinked like maybe I heard wrong. Mom. I'm having surgery. And Vanessa already paid for her trip. Paid. Like I was asking them to cancel a business contract instead of helping their daughter. I could die if this gets worse. Oh, Elena, don't be dramatic. That sentence sat inside my chest like ice. Then she lowered her voice. Honestly, maybe if you stopped acting overwhelmed all the time, people would want to help you more. I pulled the phone away from my ear. I remember staring through my windshield at people walking into the hospital carrying coffees and backpacks and ordinary lives. Something inside me shifted quietly. Not anger. Something colder. Acceptance. I hung up. And I cried so hard my forehead hit the steering wheel. What I didn't realize was Grandpa Richard was sitting in my parents' kitchen when that call happened. He heard every word. Especially the part about the dog. 3 hours later, my phone rang. Elena. Grandpa's voice. You still need help with those babies? I tried to answer normally. Couldn't. Yes. You got it. That was all. No guilt. No lecture. No hesitation. The surgery was scheduled for Thursday morning. Wednesday night, Grandpa arrived at my apartment carrying 2 grocery bags and an overnight suitcase older than me. I made chili, he announced. Then quieter. And I brought coloring books because I don't understand modern cartoons. The twins adored him instantly. That night after they fell asleep, Grandpa sat at my kitchen table turning a mug slowly in his hands. You know, he said carefully, some people only know how to love when it's convenient. I didn't answer. Because if I did, I'd start crying again. Thursday morning came fast. Hospitals at 5 a.m. feel unreal. Too bright. Too quiet. Too awake. I kissed the twins goodbye while they slept. Grandpa drove me. Halfway there he suddenly said, your grandmother would have been ashamed of them. Them. Not you. Them. That mattered. The surgery lasted almost 4 hours. When I woke up, my throat burned and my stomach felt carved open. The nurse adjusted my blanket. You've got family outside. I smiled weakly. Grandpa. But when the curtain opened, my parents walked in. My mother carrying flowers. My father looking uncomfortable. I genuinely thought maybe they felt guilty. Maybe they realized. Maybe. Then my mom spoke. We heard Dad's been staying at your apartment. There it was. Not concern. Investigation. She sat beside the bed. Elena, you need to understand something. Pain medication blurred the room slightly. Your grandfather has been making emotional decisions lately. My chest tightened. What does that mean? My father cleared his throat. It means he's talking about changing things in the will. Everything went very still. Even medicated, I understood instantly. This wasn't about me. It was about money. My mother touched my hand lightly. You know how old people get attached after tragedies? Attached. Like my children were stray cats Grandpa accidentally fed. We just don't want manipulation happening. I stared at her. Actually stared. Then slowly asked. You refused to help me during surgery, and came here to discuss inheritance. My father's jaw tightened. That's not fair. No. What wasn't fair was waking up stitched together while your parents worried about losing access to Grandpa's money. But the worst part came next. Because Grandpa walked in halfway through that conversation. And he heard everything. The room froze. Grandpa looked at my mother first. Then my father. Then the flowers still wrapped in plastic on the side table. "You came," he said slowly, "for this?" Nobody answered. Grandpa set down his coffee cup carefully. Then he said something I will never forget. "You know what the difference is between Elena and you two?" My mother whispered, "Dad." But Grandpa kept going. "When Elena needs something, she apologizes before asking." He pointed toward the hallway. "You know who watched those twins this week?" Silence. "Me." His voice cracked slightly. "You know who sat beside her after Caleb died?" Silence again. "Me." Then quieter. "And you people think you deserve loyalty because you share DNA." My father stood abruptly. "You're overreacting." "No," Grandpa snapped. "For the first time in years, I'm reacting correctly." The nurse peeked in nervously before backing away again. Grandpa turned toward me, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. My mother went pale instantly. "Dad." "I already changed it." The room stopped breathing. Grandpa handed me the envelope. Inside was paperwork. Trust documents. The lake house. His savings. Investment accounts. All transferred into a protected family trust. For me. And the twins. Not my parents. Not Vanessa. Me. My father's face drained completely. "Dad, this is insane." "No," Grandpa said calmly. "What's insane is choosing a dog over your daughter's surgery." Nobody moved. Then Grandpa delivered the line that destroyed them. "I wanted to leave behind something valuable." He looked directly at my parents. "But apparently I already raised people who only understand value in dollars." My mother started crying immediately. Real tears too. But not for me. For what she lost. And somehow, that hurt worse. The next few weeks exploded through the family like gasoline. Vanessa called screaming about fairness. My father accused me of manipulation. My mother sent long texts about family misunderstandings. Not one apology. Not one. Grandpa moved into the lake house permanently after that. And for the first time in years, he looked peaceful. I recovered slowly. The twins helped in the strange way children do. Mason brought me crackers every morning. Lily tucked blankets around my feet like I was the child. One Sunday afternoon, Grandpa sat beside me on the porch while the twins chased bubbles across the yard. "You know why your grandmother loved this house?" he asked. I shook my head. She said peace sounds different when it's earned. I think about that sentence a lot now. Especially because people assume this story is about revenge. It's not. Revenge is loud. This was quieter than that. This was finally seeing people clearly. My parents still call sometimes. Mostly holidays. Mostly guilt. Mostly silence pretending to be conversation. But things changed permanently after the hospital. Because once someone shows you exactly where you rank in their life, you can't unknow it. Grandpa passed away 11 months later in his sleep at the lake house. Peacefully. The twins still talk about him constantly. Lily says he smells like peppermint and coffee. Mason calls him the fixer. Sometimes I still cry driving past the hardware store where Caleb used to work. Sometimes I still wake up panicking from those years alone. But I'm okay now. Not because life became perfect. Because I finally stopped begging the wrong people to love me correctly. And if you're listening to this while carrying everything alone, I need you to hear this part carefully. The people who truly love you rarely make you fight to deserve it. They show up. Even when it's inconvenient. Even when it's messy. Even when it costs them something. Especially then. That's my story. And honestly, Grandpa's face in that hospital room, calm while my parents realized everything had changed, I'll never forget it. If this story meant something to you, tell me in the comments, what's one act of kindness you'll never forget for the rest of your life? And if you stayed until the end, subscribe for more emotional family stories just like this one.